ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to KROSS BARZ, the podcast where we discuss interesting topics with alternative perspective. I'm your host, Big O, and today we have with us
Tanae. I'm filling in for Muccini. What's up, y'all?
All right, that was okay. It was a little
all right.
but it was okay. I like it. All right, so I'm gonna just say Jay because it seemed like you got a name like a Tribe Called Quest. I'm gonna just call you Tribe.
You a hater, that's why.
Like,
it's the special, it's the vibe. It's the vibe that comes with it. That's what it is.
Oh, okay. Well, let me introduce the first topic. All right. The first topic we're gonna talk about, we kind of teased it a little bit prior a few months ago. We were talking about teachers versus parents in the pandemic. We're talking about social distancing, the learning environment, and also learning through Zoom. Yikes. All right. So now how do we as a society, we're going to have to live with the development of people in Zoom? Now, personally, I foresee that there's going to be a lot of people with some real issues communicating, because all the nuances of communicating with one another, it's lost in Zoom. You know, like, have you ever text message someone and they can get the wrong vibe by you texting in a way you could take it a total different way?
Absolutely.
Like, did they do that? And that's what's missing. Whereas if you was in person, you'll know the energy and how it was said and all the things that surround it. And whereas everything can be taken out of context with Zoom, and it's pretty tough on a daily basis trying to educate the youth and also communicating with parents, communicating with people in general. Just think about it. Most of the time, when you're doing a Zoom, this was just like a phone conference, a video phone conference, pretty cool. But for the most part, people would meet at a particular location and have a in-person conference, because nothing beats shaking a hand, looking someone in the eye, or even sitting across from someone, because we can vibe. You can, what they say, I can feel your energy.
That's what I was about to say, the energy. You can feel the energy. Right.
Absolutely. So now we're doing it in kind of remote, and we're trying to generate that energy. But just think about it in a standpoint where educators, where they sometimes feed off the energy of the class, or they have to generate it. But, you can look at students and see, wait a minute, they give me a look, and they seem that they're not quite sure of the information that I'm teaching. How do you feel? How do you feel about it?
I think you're right, because there's so many distractions when you're at home. And even though, they're sitting at the computer, the teacher can be teaching and the student is there, but they don't know what's going on under the table. They don't know what's going on in the other room. Sometimes they probably will hear it. You know what I mean? So it may be a little difficult for the teacher to keep the students engaged the full time of the classroom. And then when you have so many screens, you have to, we have so many students, you have all the different little boxes and views, and you have to be aware of that. You know what I mean? And that's a challenge within itself, because it's like you almost have to be like an octopus. You have to be looking in all little classes. Whereas if you were in a classroom, you could walk through the classroom and maybe touch a student on the hand or touch him on the shoulder, try to get him to calm down, or can you come to the board and do this? And they're actually in the classroom. So I think that, having a Zoom is a little bit, it could be challenging for the teachers, I'm sure. I'm very sure, because you don't have that personal aspect to it.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's been a lot of uptick of people looking to change careers in education. And some people look at it in one sense of, they said, wow, man, jobs must be very easy for educators out there. And I'm like, ooh,
that happens.
So
sure.
You see many educators saying, look, I ain't signed up for this. And you know what? I might have to do some other things. And,
absolutely. My mom, she's a teacher's aide. And there were some people that were actually on the brink of retirement. that decided, oh, I'll work a little bit longer. But then when the pandemic hit and we had to do Zoom and they had to get used to all this technology and all of that, they're like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go ahead and retire. Let me go home and save myself. I don't want to have to deal with this. I want to really chill, just be on my computer. So some people are retiring early if they're at that, at the edge of the retirement age. Some of them might even do it earlier than that. It's like, should I retire now? I might lose out on some money, but you know what? I don't even really care. I don't even want to deal with it anymore. That's just truth.
Absolutely. And so far, what I've been seeing, people on so many sides with various opinions. So for instance, a lot of parents have been giving accolades to their teachers saying, okay, y'all are way underpaid. Okay, I don't know how you do it.
Now they are. Before they probably weren't.
So now when you were looking and you say, okay, you're just dealing with your 3 kids. Just imagine I had your 3 kids and I had his 3 kids.
That's right.
Yeah, 25, 30, and some class I even hear, have 40 students in the class. One that was incredible, my daughter, my oldest, in her math 1 class, she had 70 people in her class. And I said,
in one class?
One class. But she was like, it was 2 teachers and an aide in there. And I was just like, that's still too many in one particular class. But, she said it was pretty thorough and everything. And that's one of the better classes in her school. And I said, okay. Each his own. But I was like, that sounds like college numbers.
It is. That's what I said. One class and it
sounds like college numbers. But it had 200 some in some of the larger institutions and schools. They had that many. But when I start looking at this, right? So as education, as a teacher is concerned, you have to look at it from a standpoint of, is the information impactful? Are the students learning something? Are they saying, you know what, this is what I'm taking away from it. This is how I can utilize this information.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, the teacher has to do their best to try to engage them. And there's so much competition. Just in school, when you talk about adolescents, if a girl got on the wrong outfit, some of the boys done check. Because we're not going to talk about that statistics of what every 8 seconds. Some is 11. I learning about that, and I was like, and then a couple of my friends was like, I think I'm, what you thinking about. So now you go from, okay, while you're in class, you get their attention to things, but now they're not in your class and they got everything to distract them. So they may have their laptop, then they may have their phone, then they may have an iPad, and then the big screen TV in the background.
Yes.
So you got all these things, and then what's been happening is I'm gonna turn my screen off so you can't see what I'm doing.
See nothing. Yeah.
I'm gonna turn my screen. You don't know what I'm doing. And when the teacher call on me, I'm be away and I ain't gonna answer. So I know in this one particular school district,
that will remain nameless.
I don't want to mess up no political connect. But they do not allow you to, before teachers were placing students in the waiting room. Like, look, if you ain't answering, I don't see you on the screen or nothing, boom, you go to the waiting room. Because I don't know back there, I don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? If I'm asking you something we hear, you're responsible. Because before, and I did understand this point of view, where administrators made mention that, you don't know everyone's background in their life. So everyone is in different positions. So let's say if a child may have a real difficult household setting, put it that way, right? It may be embarrassing or things like that. So, allow them to keep their cameras up. But on the teacher's end, it was like, okay, they said this, but it was like on the teacher's end was saying that, well, yeah, we do understand that point of view, but can we identify who's behind that screen? Because, you can live with somebody, but if they ain't right, they be in here,
Right.
looking at whatever. Let's
Right.
just make sure, as for a safety precaution, teachers was like, look, let's make sure whoever's name on that screen is behind that screen.
Yeah, true. True.
So that was one aspect of it. And then the other aspect of it, it was like, okay, you're responsible for this material, you're responsible for what I say, so I can keep you accountable, but at the same time, keep me accountable for teaching it. And it seems like there's not a lot of equity there. And that's the part where it's like, okay, we got to come to agreement because we know that a lot is falling through the cracks. And now it's not like seeing through your fingers. It's just like wholesale, like, okay, at the end of the year, I'm like, what did you really learn this year? Like,
and you're I don't interject it because you're talking about like a regular school setting, but when you have like the secondary education, like kind of like what I'm in, and those students, like a college, and you go to the college campus and you live there, you know what I mean? The kind of situation that I'm in is that my students come and they live where we are. They live at the facility like a dorm. Right. But when you don't have access to that dormitory and you need it for, housing, you needed to wash your clothes, that's a whole nother side of it that had to be addressed, especially if the program or the organization is not geared towards technology, And so what we've been seeing is students who have had to leave us and go somewhere else, and they don't have internet. They can't get on the internet. And they don't have money to get laptops, and you can't do everything on a cell phone. So even if they had a cell phone, it might have been a prepaid phone that don't have something on it. So they were affecting education. So yes, Zoom is great on one hand, but then on the other side, when you're looking at, housing part of it, even some dorms, some people going to college, you know what I mean? They can stay there, but, people catching, COVID and all of that. So with my situation, the teachers and the parents feel it because the parents are, yes, go to this organization, go to this place, get out of this city. It's dangerous, go somewhere else. And when they have to go back to that, because they cannot stay with us because of the pandemic or whatever reasons, then it becomes a bigger problem. So now you can't get educated because you don't have access and you're not safe and all of that. So that's a whole nother, just depending on where you come, like all the Job Corps centers in the world, you got to think of that. I'm coming from that perspective, where the students need that housing and they need those other things. So, it's just this whole technology, Zoom, it's good on one side, but then it's not good on the other side. So it has its variables.
Okay, I have a question for you.
I'm listening.
Yeah. So if it costs a certain amount of money to go to your establishment, facility, institution, right? And you can't offer all these ancillary or outside things that you usually offer as a secondary education facility or entity. Okay, how would the cost be? Because that was a big issue down here with a couple of colleges where they were still charging $60,000 a year to go to this university. However, students didn't have access to the library, the gymnasium, or any activities, extracurricular activities, physical office hours going in there, and particularly some labs. So they weren't able to do these things, but they were paying the same tuition. And I kind of looked at it until somebody expressed that on the news, and I said, "Oh, that's very interesting. Why do I got to pay $67,000 a year?
Right.
I'm only getting a fraction, a third of the experience.
Right.
Be compensated, and on top of it, the government and the federal government and some state governments in certain states, they were actually giving breaks to universities and things of that nature, but some of the universities weren't giving breaks to the students. And that's where I'm asking you that question, like, how do you guys handle that at your establishment?
Well, what they had to do is they had to purchase the equipment to send to every student. So that would be laptops. And if you don't have internet, they send them hotspots. to make sure that you have access to that. There are some students, because they still have access to our counselors and cell phones. If a student needed a phone, we could send them a phone. We've sent care packages to different houses for our students who had kids, or, they were from place to place. They can also still speak with their counselors, and we can help them find shelters or other places to live, or connect them with another center in the area that may have been open and we are not. So there's a whole bunch of different things that we're throwing in there. So some of that other money had to go back into the technology, which is on the center, where we didn't have computers in every room. Now they had to upgrade all of these things. You know what I mean? So even though they're not here, they had to figure out, what are we going to do with all this food that we used to order? So a lot of the money that we did spend, a lot of that is kind of like just sitting in a pot now, because you can't spend it. Your electric bill is not as high. You know what I mean? So all of those funds on different line items are spent in other ways now, and you have to prove that. So that's why we're still continuing to work. We've went to the Zoom. Some people had to update that. We've had to change how we teach. Webcams for the teachers. They didn't have that before because it just wasn't that technology. Even figuring out how you do relationships with colleges and stuff now, and different, and other vocational schools. It's just making you think now, next level, how are you going to do this? It's been a whole lot of changes. So they have found ways to do it and still working on it. It's like a work in progress. Everything's moving, and as they learn, it changes. So they're trying to do the best that we can to get it. You know what I mean? That's the only thing.
Okay. And I understand that.
Did that answer your question for you? Because it is exciting.
It did. Because like in education, it's almost like, okay, you're not going to spend a lot for this. So like, for instance, I was looking at some of the behavioral counselors that are in schools, whereas, okay, you have these security guards, behavioral counselors, or people who are doing service as far as if the students are in school, even custodial work.
Sure.
Whereas I looked at it and said, well, if we're not in school, their work is going to be limited. However, if we go back to school, they're going to need many more, like much more, because their job basically quadrupled.
Right.
So when you look at custodial work, I'm like, oh, you got to sanitize. You got to make sure you're not sick. You got to make sure that you're safe. And so now watch this. Even bus drivers, so now if, because what I found out is that, some parents may say, look, we may have caught it, but I still got to go work. And if they're a 1099 contractor where they don't have the benefits, they're working, an hourly wage. They like, look, I'm a contractor. I don't get benefits. I don't eat. And my kid, you know what? You got to go to school. And what if they didn't take the test, but they have all the symptoms?
Right.
It's like, okay, we're going to test you, place you in another isolation room. But it's like, okay, that's going to be pretty tough. And so now you put an onus on the school, and I'm like, that's, to me, I see a disaster happening. I really do.
Well, I know for us, we did a lot of preparation, and a lot of new plans were put in place for safety. Things that we didn't have before, we have now. That there's more dispensers for hand sanitizers and, temperature gauges, and they have the, thermometers on every floor, so we could take temperatures, and you had to figure out a new, plan if somebody does catch COVID, go over here. But you did make a good point when you said, like your maintenance and your janitors who have to clean, there's all of that has changed, at least from where I'm at, that they only pick up certain times. All the traffic has to go one way in the building now, so there's like everything has changed. Only so many people to a room. So we've changed it to this blended learning now, where if they do return, you'll have some students in the dorms, some students in the class, some students online who don't even need to come back. You know what I mean? And so it's a lot. It's not as many people to a dorm room as it would have been before. You know what I mean? Where it might have been 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever. Now there might be only 2 or 3 for the sake of just safety. So all of that, when you do your laundry, how you do your laundry, all of those things have changed. So It's a lot of changes.
Yeah.
I know we kind of veered off from the Zoom, but it all goes together when you're talking about pandemics.
Absolutely, because remember, it wasn't together. The topic wasn't Zoom. The topic was, teachers versus parents in the pandemic. And I know it's kind of, the topic is a little bit misleading, as we were saying, where versus is almost like, no, we have different perspective about looking at how education, will look. So for instance, as a parent as well.
That's the point. That's what it's called. How does education look now? Yes.
Correct. So as a parent, I look at my daughters and I say, man, okay, if you got 2 middle schoolers and a high schooler, and okay, that's a whole nother perspective because, they don't really need to be self-monitored. Monitored by me as I don't have to be as visual. So I don't have to be on top of like, okay, you better be sit still.
Right.
It's almost like, a fourth grader, you may have to do that because they're going to have a lot of energy. They're going to be like, okay, I'm bored.
Depends on the parent though. Depends on the parent.
No, and it's not really depend on the child. Because the child, like the parent can do so much, but children do have their own personalities. They do.
Yeah, because I was bad in school. My mama didn't know it. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Parents can do but so much, but at the same time, you know your child. And I know, okay, one, I'm gonna have to really keep up on, look, looking at little Howard school. Look, she turned in all the assignments on top of one. The other two is
right.
You know what, y'all on autopilot because y'all already know if y'all bring in something a little low, y'all got to deal with me. And already got on top of, look, was this your best? No. All right, let's make sure we're doing our best because it's really not about the grade. Like with me, particular, it wasn't about the grade. It's almost like the effort. Are you trying this on a daily basis? That's really what it is. So if you're doing work or anything, and your best is a C. All right, I'm not going, hassle you because the best is a C in this particular subject area. Whereas if I know, look, you listen. Your mama's smart, your daddy's smart. Look, you really smart. Where others, I'm like, look, man, look, I know corduroy and steel don't make silk. Like, look, you know what I mean? Like, like we gonna teach them like they're gonna be rocket science, but if they fall short, we do understand. We do understand because.
Okay, so I do have a question for you though. So. Do your students, what about those students that you're teaching that have like IEPs or some type of accommodation? Like, how do you address that within your classroom and they're not there without being, telling everybody that this student has this in the class? How do you do that?
So now there's a couple of ways that you can do it. You modify the lessons that you give. That's the good part about using Canvas or any online activities. There's a wealth of modified lessons out there, a lot of visual aid. A lot of YouTube clips are being developed towards education. So there's a lot of things that go towards that modification. However, anytime that you have to do assignments right there, they have the breakout rooms on Zoom. So you kind of could take them aside or a small group aside, and you could do that. You could place them in groups as well and say, okay, you're going to be in group
that's
1,
cool. Okay.
Group 3. So Zoom has that feature, but this is the other issue. If students aren't comfortable talking to one another, because see, me and you could talk, we could talk all day.
Right.
I never really met them. See, remember, we was all in different classrooms. We're in a new school year. So
right.
Like school shut down in March of last year. We're coming up on a year pretty soon. So now coming into the new year, I didn't meet my new friends in the 8th grade. I came straight from the summer to Zoom. I wasn't even playing with them in sports. A lot of times, the extracurricular activities is where you may meet a lot of your friends because you have something in common. So it's like, oh yeah, he's on my football team, so we had to go back in this time. Or he was on basketball, we like playing basketball at the Y. So now all these activities where you may find a bond or some type of social activity, you're not doing that anymore. So now it's like when you come to school, it's almost like, okay, I got a bunch of strangers around. Now, some people, some students, they have that gregarious and outwardly personality where they can, make friends and talk and they're not scared,
Right. Mm-hmm.
whereas, now watch this, some of these charter schools were closing down, so a lot of the public schools were getting
Combine.
inundated with new students. So now you're coming into a new school, new environment at a new
Right.
time. You don't know
Right.
anyone. So now as a teacher,
True.
for me, I always like, nah, you good people, and try to make sure that they feel welcomed and all their opinions and their things they have to say is valued. But now look at it from another standpoint. You got all this stuff going on. Now the one thing you have that you can control is that schoolwork. And when you don't turn it in, it's like, okay, why ain't turning it in? Because what else you got to do? You ain't going nowhere.
Right. What else are you doing?
So as an educator, I look and say, how you got missing a sign? Like I'm like, you ain't going nowhere. You got a computer, you got a hotspot, you got Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? So like the school kind of is like, yo, we're gonna take every excuse in the way. And then you might get a kid and say, I don't feel like it.
Then that's on the parents. Then the parents should be making sure. Then that's when the parents come in and they need to enforce that part. Man, come on, man. I get it, but I mean,
I think some of these men are 1 second away from strangling their own kids.
Like, I agree. And some of them don't even know what they're doing. They didn't know what they were doing into math-wise anyway. And to help them with their homework, some of them really don't know. So, and then technology, some of them don't know. And the students have to teach them how to use the technology.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
that's the truth.
Yeah, hold up, Miss J. Miss J, hold on for a second. You ever had your parents help you out with math when you was younger?
Yeah, my mom would help, my dad would help. He was smart.
That ain't never work out. But
when I got to like trigonometry and calculus, then I got a little less help when it got into those categories. Multiplication, he was good.
Look, I help my children like, that's not how you do it, Daddy. I'm sitting there like, look, the old school ways always work.
Right, and they got little boxes now. You got to put the box in. I'm like, what you need a box? How you need a box?
I'm like, what's that? That's the new man.
What is that called? I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah, look, he was like, that's lattice. I was like, oh, that's how you do it? Oh, okay. Me, we do a line and we do the multiplication.
That's it, carry a one. The top.
Hold the zero right here. Like, nah, we do it, Daddy. It's like, oh, box. It's like, oh, okay. I what's going on, but it's more than one way to do things. But looking at it from parents' point of view, it's like, okay, nothing is going to beat, spending time and actually developing your child. And there's a way to develop a student. Sometimes you'll look and see some kids need more common sense than others. Some kids are more sensitive. So that's where the parents kind of know. And one of the things that's always beautiful about education in general, it's a plethora of attitudes and personalities in the school. So you may not relate to, your science.
Right, sure. Yeah.
But you relate to your math, but you may not relate to your social studies, but you relate to your English ELA teacher.
Right.
You may not relate to any of them, and you might like your CTE, which is, maybe a computer, your word processing teacher, or your art, your band. And a lot of times, especially athletes, they may, relate to their physical education teacher. I learned that. Don't say gym, but your phys ed teacher. So now you kind of have different people you may relate, and that's a learning lesson in itself.
Yeah, true.
Because that's the one area where I really dislike teaching. A certain demographic, little younger levels. Oh my God, because they really believe like you have to like your teacher to do what you're supposed to do. It's like, no,
you don't.
You don't learn in life. There's a lot of people in life. There's people who's gonna work right.
You might have to do it, but you don't have to like them.
You're gonna be in a cubicle looking at somebody like, I can't stand that.
Your boss, like,
your boss come in. He might smell like alcohol, but that ain't your place. Like, yo, I gotta do what I gotta do. You gotta do your job. You gotta.
Why you say smell like alcohol?
Yeah, listen.
I know, that's funny. I get it.
Because in the summertime, you gotta pick up different ones. You sitting there like, How you know they got supervisor? I know
That's Listerine. That's just Listerine.
Yeah, it's like, hold up, man, you doing something crazy. But I think right now, I may mention this before. I said, I think I said that to Buccini. I was like, listen, we gonna need everybody to go get a mental health physical before we get
I
out
remember
here.
that.
Everybody. And you're like, nah, don't force me to get one. I was like,
Right.
yeah, you need a
She did.
million
He's like, I'm
more.
good. I don't need all of that. I don't need no.
I don't need nothing. I was like, all right. So I realized that people can't, discuss differences or can't really settle disputes, talking. It's like, okay, we can agree to disagree. Before that was difficult. Now, oh no, it's gonna get
I mean,
hard.
some people really gonna need some. I mean, 2020 was no joke.
Oh,
2020 was no joke. So
okay.
I know a lot of people that might need some therapy. And I'm not talking about some homegirl therapy or some homeboy therapy. I'm talking about some certified FDA.
Yeah, people, you gotta talk to people with letters behind their names.
Yes, and PhDs.
and even there was saying some show that was on television like maybe 2 weeks ago. They were mentioning this. It slips my mind right now, but they were saying that people, instead of using your pastor, go see a real therapist or counselor. And
they gave the pastors the thumbs down. Oh, come on.
And
you got like, spiritual, and then you got, the thin line between sanity and insanity.
So when I was listening, I said, man, that's tough. Because, in some states, pastors some pastors as well as clergy, they have the license to give counsel. But that's not all states. Not all states. It's only some states. And I had to
so you have to have a separate license, right?
Correct. Now, like I know in New Jersey, they couldn't do it. You had to have a license for that. But if you are a clergy member, if you are a pastor or what is it, a pastor, a priest, you have those abilities in certain states. You don't need a separate license for that.
Okay.
So, but there are some who has like, okay, they have doctorates. And it's not like, okay, no, they have doctorates because they have that counseling experience and background.
Right. They've been in school. Absolutely.
And they've been in school. Absolutely. So now they were saying like, nah, because people been, kind of exaggerating the point, saying, okay, all you need is Jesus to cure COVID. It's like, okay.
Well, some of them pastors might be happy they got a break during the year. All the stuff they might hear, they might be happy. Like, yeah, go ahead to the psychologist. Let me live with myself. Listen, you gonna do you. Let me do me. I need time out too.
Down here in the great state of North Carolina.
They churching in North Carolina. I'll be watching them on Zoom, on Facebook Live.
Them churches was open, and remember separation of church and state.
Right.
So the church was open, and they were like, "Look, we having our conference. You can't do anything about it." But when I looked at it, I was like, "Yo, you putting so many people at risk." So they were having church, and they gave two comparisons, like a predominantly Caucasian church and a predominantly African American church. So it wasn't like when the news put it out there, it was like, okay, this church was doing this church was doing this, and I was like, okay, these pastors is out of control with this.
But well, some of them felt right, but some of them caught the backside of that too when people started getting COVID. You know what I mean? And then they had to change it up. You know what I mean? So that's that's the same thing with that and some restaurants that didn't get shut. That we're gonna have people. Gotta be smart about it.
Yeah,
you gotta be smart about it. You can have all the faith in the world, but you still gotta be smart about it.
Absolutely. So when I thought, I said, I have some alternate look, KROSS BARZ, alternate perspective. I said, no, if you want to go to these little super spreaders, no matter who you are, if that's what you want to do, it's just that when you go to the hospital, you got to go to the back of the line. Because you putting yourself in danger. Like just imagine somebody getting a horrific car accident. They didn't purpose. I'm just saying they didn't do it intentionally. But if someone had a horrific car accident and the ambulance had to come and get both of the individuals or the people that was involved and take them into the hospital, and then a person, had complications from COVID, but they went to one of these revivals per se, or went to one of these rallies, and then came in there. I'm saying, listen, go get them first. Y'all wait, because you put yourself in danger. Just like the same way as like if somebody tried to commit suicide and wasn't successful.
Right.
It's like, okay, if you wasn't successful, but you try to commit suicide, okay, well, we're gonna take this person first. We will get to you.
Oh no, you can't say that.
Listen, I know this foul. I know this foul. I know I'm foul.
Yeah.
However, that's how I feel, because it's like, okay,
you entitled. You entitled.
You absolutely do this. Okay, cool. We're gonna get to you.
But then that's the same thing too. People go to work. So are you gonna say the same thing about people to go to work? It's still COVID. I gotta go to work and make money. Some people think they need to go in the building and to do what they have to do.
Now,
I gotta go to work.
That's different, because that's not voluntary. See, if I had an option, if you got an option,
if you had an option, some people was mad that they had to go to work.
Yeah, no, see, you said had to go. That means
if they had to go to work.
Yeah. So if I had an option, I chose to go. Yeah, that's on me. You chose to go and do that. But I also look at it like, okay, I'm gonna go because I don't fit the demographics, but at the same time, I'm kind of nervous for my family. So now I'm like, okay,
some had protocols in place. Some of them had hand sanitizer, and you had to sit every other seat. And they tried to put some things in place, even though I had it outside in the parking lot instead of inside. I've seen all kind of different little things like that. But we way over here now. We need to bring it really.
Yeah. I know we're gonna bring it there, but you got to understand what you said. Like, if you had some health complication, if someone in your household had some issues, then you going to work and then coming back can actually cause a big rift.
Sure.
But you're right. But now, let's get on to our next topic, which is more a little fun and not so serious. Even though we didn't try to take it as serious, because as a parent, it's like, yo, what do you get paid for if you ain't teaching? It's like, nah, man, we really teaching. We in there humping, trying to do everything to get that child to work. But to
do what you got to do.
Look, as a parent, it's like,
you got some teachers that was in the building that wasn't teaching. So it's no different than having Zoom when the teacher's not teaching. So you can say the same thing. And you got both. You got both. But now you just got to be more accountable, because somebody's watching you, and you got to log in, and the parents can see what you're doing and hear what you're doing every day. If you're really teaching and giving good information. You know what I mean? They got teachers in the building that don't teach nothing, and they're in the class with them. So the parent is complaining then. It's no different to me. They really can't complain. What's the difference?
I think it's a huge difference. Just the philosophy of education. It's almost like the Asian model versus the American model. The Asian model is similar to what we have in our college system. So for instance, like I always use this analogy. If you was in Asia and you say you came on with a grade, you're not going to the teacher. The parent is getting on the child. Could you imagine a college freshman coming home and saying, the professors don't like me? As a parent, you're gonna look at your kid like, I don't
want to hear that. You gotta deal with that.
You better get that grade. I don't care what you don't like. You better figure it out and get that grade, because I'm paying for it. But if you look at from the K through 12 model, they don't do that. It's like, okay, we got to do something. You got to entertain my kid. You got to put more decorations on the wall. You know what? You need to do this. You're going to put the onus on the teacher, and it doesn't shift into the student until they get to the secondary level or college level. Whereas over in other areas or the areas of the world, that model starts much earlier. It's saying, no,
I agree with you on that.
We're putting the onus on the student, not on the teacher or whomever. Now, I'm not saying they're going to shirk their responsibility. I'm just saying, like, okay, if we all got a common goal, which is to educate this child, work with me, because you have a school of, 1,300 students and you got 6 parents on the PTO. I'm like, okay, y'all need to step up.
Right. For sure.
Y'all need to step up. Sure. And that's across the board everywhere. Because, but that's too far off, because I was about to say something else, but let's move on. All right. Now, this year Okay, we're starting a new decade, 2021. We're in year
Mm-hmm.
one of the new decade.
Right.
And the last decade was very memorable, and we had some huge moments.
Yes, we
Okay,
did.
and if we think about some of the huge moments, right? So I jotted some things down, right?
Go ahead. What you got? What you got? Because I
And
got some too.
okay. So matter of fact, let's start off with the bad stuff and then go to the
You
good
said
stuff.
the bad stuff. Oh,
Let's go
so
to the bad stuff. So I'm gonna start off with all right. 2016 election. All right. Okay. We've seen our first non-political entity because I don't think I think he's an entity. He's a movement. You know, like he's he's the like the reason why I say this is because I understand what it represents when people wear certain hats. They may not know any of the policies, but they wear the hat to try to tick off a certain demographic. So, for instance, we're going to make America great again. So I'm looking at it like, hey, yo, huh? Okay, do you agree?
That happened. It happened.
It happened.
It's happening.
And I never forget when I was much younger, and I was hyped. They said, yeah, we might get a black president back in the 80s, right? And Jesse Jackson was running for president, and he kept on getting,
yes,
hemmed up because they said, listen, you have never won any political office. You can, being president of the United States is not an on-the-job training type of job.
No, you need to know a little something, right?
Know something. So if you go do something, come back, then you might be out. And they always caught him with that one. And so everyone who tried to run for president, they really wasn't trying to win. They was running to get their platform heard or their agenda into the national spotlight. So I was like, okay, I understand that. So that was pretty cool. But now when I saw that, okay, a truly uneducated person, and when I say uneducated is to how government really functions,
works and runs,
functions and work, because of some of the moves that he made. Is like, okay, you could not know how this was really functioning.
Still making.
And I was like, wow. And then the former president, or no, excuse me, his predecessor, comment, and I'll use his words, woefully unprepared. So former President Obama said, homeboy, yeah, he's woefully unprepared. I said, oh, he used the word woefully?
Yeah.
Yikes.
But the American people.
Yeah. But
they choose, and that's why we have voting. Okay, and that's a whole nother. That's a whole nother
topic. All right.
That's a whole nother.
That was one of the big things, and one of the reasons why it was the first thing I wanted to talk about that was like shattering is because when he got in there, some of the people, like I know people in DC, people who work around there as well, when they explained what he did when he first got in there, and I was totally disgusted. So a lot of people didn't know that he changed. He took out, of course, he took out all the linen and stuff, but he changed all the bathrooms and took out the toilets and had them replaced. And when I heard,
they have the option to do whatever they want, they can redecorate and change.
They can redecorate, but no one takes out the plumbing. Like, like the toilet's there. No, I don't even want to use the same toilet. Because that says something else. That reminds me of a different period.
I thought you were saying he wanted all bidets in every. No. I get you.
In this bathroom, we had 4 urinals. We're gonna have 4 urinals, but we're taking those out and put new urinals in. And it's like, why do you do that? Like, yeah, we can't use any. But then I was like, maybe I'm being a little too sensitive. Because maybe other presidents did it.
Maybe did. That's what I'm saying. Because you have the option of changing things.
When my people said, "Nah, fam, that ain't what they did," I was like, "That's not what they did in the past. He did that because of that," and I'm like,
"Wow, that's great."
So moving on from that, some of the other things that was pretty big, the rise and falls of Facebook. And the reason why I say rise and fall, I say pretty now, Facebook, I see is on a decline. A lot of people, they like, look, if you're on Facebook, that means you old. It's almost like being on MySpace right now. You know, it's like if you're on MySpace right now, you
Black Planet.
Yeah, Black Planet. You know, he like, yo, yeah, what's my joint? I'm in Black Planet. Oh, I'm on MySpace. Like, and that's how I see Facebook going into this next decade. Like, all right, fam, what's next?
But you know, Facebook by Instagram, so it's all connected. So that doesn't matter if they have Facebook or not. They got Instagram, so they still gonna be making money.
And
that happened during the decades. If we're talking technology, Facebook by Instagram, it all works. So they got, you know, we got our old people over here. We can put our young people over here, and it's still popping. This is true.
Absolutely. However, you know, Instagram is still going, but it seems like Instagram is actually slowly, well, not even slowly anymore. It's evolving right in front of us. So I'm looking at it like, okay, this is seem a little different, you know, and I'm like, all right.
It's a lot on Instagram. I don't even know all the little features yet. I'm still figuring it out in the TV. But they were launched for Instagram. They were launched in 2010, and the iPad was released in 2010. So if we're talking about decade stuff, the iPad, 2010.
What? Now watch this. You know what else?
What you got?
Bitcoin. You know,
Bitcoin for sure.
You messed around and put some Bitcoin.
Yeah,
back in
that's a fact.
2012, 2013.
That's a fact.
You'll be a millionaire right now.
Yeah, and also, was 2013, Uber.
Yeah.
Uber and Lyft started 2013.
Uber and Lyft.
That's a $1 billion company now.
Oh, what about the home, Airbnb?
Oh, yeah, Airbnb, super dope.
So now
super dope, replacing hotels.
So basically, Uber and Lyft almost put the taxi cab
out of business. Almost. I don't even see no Look, this is the God's truth. I was gonna catch an Uber one day, and they were all like busy, book. So I called a taxi, right? Because they weren't coming. The taxi place tried to have like an app like Uber, but the car was like Frogger car versus you remember the game Frogger back in the day?
Yeah.
And how the frog had to go across the street and they had the little cars that were going by little boxes. The car was like a little box, like not even dimensional. It was like a little box versus, you know, in the Uber app, the car is moving, you know, whatever. And it was so funny to see the technology that they were trying to reach for to keep in sync and to keep up with Uber and Lyft. But it was so funny. I was looking at the app like, is this real? It's like, looks like there's like a Nintendo game versus the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because
it was funny.
Yeah, it'd be like, yo, I'm playing double dribble in Nintendo. You know,
right.
And somebody right. 2K, be like, yo, that's sweat on LeBron's head. Also, the rise of Tesla.
Elon Musk. They said he just, did you see the little monies now, how he surpassed and he's supposed to be like the richest guy?
They going to, you know why, right?
But you know, in the beginning, what happened to him, he lied a little bit in the beginning and it got him in some trouble during this decade.
Yeah,
he went on Twitter and he made that, and he didn't even have all the financial backing that he really needed for Tesla, but he went out and said it and saying, hey, you know, I $420, blah, 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 blah. And he ended up having to pay, like, I think it was like 20 million back to people because he had bigged this thing up to be something that it wasn't yet. He even went across to other countries and told them, yeah, I had, and he didn't even have all the backing for it. So he got like a fine. And now it's reversed now and he's making the money.
Oh, okay. So he was a revolutionary. He was one of the first people to clout chase. That's what they like, clout chase.
He did, and he did that, and he had the people believing that, you know, I'm actually looking it up now because I don't want to say, you know, anything wrong. But yeah, in the beginning, yeah, he didn't have all the financial backing that he needed and had to pay. And now look where he is now. He had people believing in him when he didn't even have it. That's how great, he projected himself. He paid for it, but now he got more than that.
Okay. So now a couple of things that was pretty big that cars no longer have CD players. Well, tape players, if you had a tape player, that was beyond it. But no more CD players or
Yeah,
USBs. Everything is Bluetooth. I'm
I know
like,
it's weird.
what I'm gonna do
It's
with all my
weird.
CDs? You know what I mean? Collect them big books, and I can bring them out, and then you keep the ones in your visor. You can wear that. What we
It was
doing?
weird when I got in a rental car going somewhere one time, and I was like, "Where's the CD player?" And I was like, "Oh my God, it's Bluetooth."
Everything. So it's like, yo,
Or you had to plug your phone into the
yeah.
yeah,
Now you can't even plug your
Bluetooth. I'm
phone.
like, how you just gonna tell me I can't use my CD? Maybe we getting old. Maybe we.
Facts. You know, and I would like to give a award for this next one. Black Twitter's dominance on a decade. Woo. Black Twitter got some people up out of here. And
You said Black Twitter.
Black Twitter is none of listen, I want no problems with Black Twitter. None whatsoever. Black Twitter dominated the entire decade. I used to get all my information from the griot. Then I would go to Breakfast Club to get some more modern stuff. Then I would go to the what you call it, the New York Times. I wasn't really a Wall Street Journal person. I was more like
Right.
the New York Times. I would do that and the op-ed, and then I started getting with NPR because they had more audio stuff. So I was, I was kind of.
I wasn't even into none of that. I really told myself I don't really care about Twitter. I don't really care about social media. I'm not into all of that because it was just like so much in the beginning. I didn't want to learn each separate thing, so I didn't even want to do it. But then after everybody continued to get on, like I gotta find out what this about. Now I got a Twitter account, an Instagram account, Facebook, now TikTok that came along too in the 2019.
Yeah,
2019 TikTok, and it was like crazy.
Yeah, and I'm obviously I don't have a Twitter. I had a Twitter for one of my other ventures, and I'm like, okay, I can't keep on reading this because I already saw it get.
I was so like,
yeah. So I said, all right, let me fall back, and I was doing just Facebook, and then I said, okay, it started getting weird on the type of solicitations I was giving because I'm always I just want to support people.
right.
I did a thing last decade.
Mm-hmm.
I always support my HBCUs, and
oh yeah, shout out to the HBCUs.
Yeah, and I got a T-shirt for at least I got like 56 or almost 60 of them, and I wore one each week and posted on Facebook. The thing is giving awareness and also support. And some HBCUs, so mine, alma mater, Aggie Pride, but my alma mater, I felt like, okay, you may not need as much
as some of the other ones,
as some of the others, because first and foremost, Aggies, as people say, the illustrious North Carolina.
I used to want to go to Howard University so bad. Then I went to North Carolina A&T.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank God you ain't going to Howard. I can get that.
Hey, I'm a Marshall. Hey, I'm a daughter of Marshall, so shout out to Marshall. Sorry. Hey, it is what it is. Absolutely. Go ahead.
So now for me, it was like, okay, we're the largest HBCU in the nation. However, some of the smaller ones were really struggling. So it's like, okay, how can I support, a lot of these schools?
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, but now this is the part. A lot of other people started doing something similar, and I thought it was pretty awesome. And I'm like, look, I'm not taking credit for anything, and I know it wasn't new. It was just like something for me to promote positive and also supporting a Black business. So I always made sure that, the vendor was supporting the school. That was the hard part. But now I'm seeing the rise in enrollment in many HBCUs because how I seen it was in the past was the Cosby Show in a different world. And then
he did that. Absolutely. And that's something in 2010. I mean, in the decade, this is the kicker. Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby. I don't agree.
And this is the craziest. Check this out, because you had.
I don't agree.
It's crazy. Didn't you have like O.J. Simpson? And then he gets out. Now you got Bill Cosby. Do you know what that spectrum looks like? That is crazy.
Crazy.
And how do you say Bill Cosby is in jail? And then that's wow.
I'm a dude that I kind of think all like in an alternate universe. Some people used to call me crazy. but I used to always speak on OJ, his situation. I was like, if you ever dealt with anybody that's been incarcerated or dealt with the system, I said, have that conversation with them and tell them the facts. And there's no way in the world you could think that man was good. I said, that man did a lot of, he said, look, I was going to help you. I gave you a lie detector. I gave you blood sample. I gave you urine sample, hair follicles.
Everything.
And I gave you an alibi. And what they had to do was move the time of the death to make it.
That's crazy. That was crazy. I remember, was I in high school when that happened? Yeah, something like that. College, something.
But I don't want to make too many people upset because, you know.
Yeah, so we not going to touch that.
Yeah, watch this.
We going to continue. Let's do a few more things we got in 2020. What else you got? I got a couple more things.
You sure? Because I was talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, we don't. Like, I ain't
Your turn. My bad. Look, I'm trying to get to mine. There's so many things that happen. We could talk about it like forever. But yeah, go ahead. My bad.
Okay. So some of the notable deaths and people who passed, that was kind of tough. Lena Horne, Teddy Pendergrass, Gary Coleman, Tina Marie, Elizabeth Taylor, Steve Jobs, Heavy D, Nate Dogg, Amy Winehouse, Whitney Houston, Paul Walker, Prince, Hugh Hefner, and I didn't really count
Robin Williams,
but like during the people in the last like year and a half, I was like, yo, this is pretty tough.
It's a lot.
MF Doom just passed this year. Then you're talking about Debo, this past year.
Yeah,
goodness, like so many people passed, and when I started looking at it, I said, man, is that like every decade, or is it that we're just getting older?
Like aware, yeah, more conscious of you. Right.
Because you're younger, you're like, and then you start seeing. But I thought it was huge because Whitney and Prince died in this decade. I was like, Prince,
Whitney and her daughter,
died
in this decade.
That's it, but
Prince, those are like absolutely, yeah.
Yikes,
Yeah.
And
Nelson Mandela,
Aretha Franklin,
right.
So you had some icons, some people that was pillars that actually passed away. That was, it was pretty tough. And even the Bush Senior, he passed away in the decade. So, just looking at some of these things, it was tough. But some of the things that was the most shocking. Now, if I'm gonna give you 5 names. Now, tell me which one was the most shocking to you. All right, in the last decade, was it Prince, Whitney Houston, Kobe Bryant, Nipsey Hussle, or Mac Miller? Which one do you say? Ooh, that was rough.
Me, Kobe.
Facts.
It was so tragic, and then his daughter there too, and it was just not something, his lifestyle didn't, he didn't live a lifestyle that was crazy, or that was just, it shocked the world. That hit my heart. You know what I mean? It was just, I think it was much more of an impact too because his daughter was with him.
Yeah, correct.
And that together was just like, whoa. Like, not saying that nobody else's death was less important, but it was just something about that one that was like, wow.
And
it's tragic because it was so tragic,
And we don't want to, discount the people, the others that was lost in a plane, the helicopter crash. But him and his daughter was very notable.
Right.
Okay, so now let's talk about one that was a little bit something that we like, and that's a little bit more upbeat and happy. Okay, we're talking about the negative stuff, but let's say happy. Best albums, and I'm just talking about rap albums. Right?
Okay, I'm down for some hip hop.
Some hip hop, right? So, Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick Lamar. All right,
really?
Look, tell me which one you think should be your number one. So I'm gonna give you 5. Okay.
Oh boy. Okay.
Good. I may put 6 in it, but no, I'll put 5. All right. Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick Lamar. 2014 Forest Hill Drive, J. Cole. Jay-Z 444. Take Care, Drake. Astro World.
Who's Astro World?
Not Tyler Creator. Oh my God, I'm getting them mixed up. I'm looking at his head. Oh my God, the one with Jenner. He goes with the Jenner. Kylie's baby daddy.
You say Kylie's baby daddy.
Baby daddy. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm.
Who's her baby daddy?
Oh my
I
God.
don't know. I'm not pop culture.
Oh my God. Now you got.
You're gonna have. I'm gonna let you Google it. Go ahead and Google it because we want to do right information on cross bars. We don't want to give you wrong information.
Travis Scott. Goodness gracious.
Travis Scott. Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed him.
So now it's like, okay, so of those albums, okay, those were some huge albums.
I like Drake. I'm kind of biased because I'm like an old school rap person. So a lot of the new people, honestly, like I listen to them, but sometimes, I mean, if it got a little sing song in it, like Drake is kind of sing song to me, so I like him because he got a little sing song in his rap. You know what I mean? You can kind of sing to it, jam a little bit.
Okay.
Right. I like Kendrick Lamar, yo. He make you listen to him. Kendrick Lamar make you listen.
I got you. But I'm gonna tell you that Good Kid, Mad Shit is a classic. That 2014 J. Cole Forest Hill is a straight classic.
444 is too.
444 is great, but it's not. I don't put that in Jay-Z's top 2. It may be, to me, it's like Jay-Z's 4th best album. I think Good Kid, Mad City is Kendrick Lamar's. I don't think anybody can argue that.
I haven't listened to his whole thing, and I'll be honest, so I don't know all of,
J. Cole, that 2014 Forest Hill is his best album. Take Care, people say arguably that's Drake's best album. Take Care.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why I named those 3 are huge. Even because Nas, Life is Good came out as well as King's Disease. So he had one of my favorite from a female artist, but I'm gonna save her for the next one because I didn't put female artists in there. Yeah. So, but no, I put it because these female artists are just impact. But Rhapsody, Layla's Wisdom, that was not a Grammy nominated. That was
Rhapsody.
Awesome. If you ain't never heard it, I'm
she's a dope chick.
Yeah, so her one, Layla's Wisdom.
Yeah, people sleep on her though. People sleep on her. She don't get the recognition that she deserves.
Yeah. Now, who was had the biggest impact during a decade? Not just a year.
On the decade, the biggest impact.
Of the decade. Now watch this.
Oh God, that's a lot of years, a lot of days.
Nicki Minaj.
Oh yeah.
Cardi B.
Yeah.
Okay, Megan Thee Stallion.
No.
Doja Cat.
For the decade? No.
Decade.
No. She just within the last year, man. 2, maybe.
Megan Thee Stallion's last 2, but think about Cardi.
Yeah, but Cardi did though.
Okay, and think about Nicki.
Well, she did. Absolutely.
So which one had the biggest impact during the decade?
Nicki Minaj, of course.
You would go with that over Cardi?
I would. She's been in it longer. Like Cardi came after she had already been doing her thing. Then Cardi came in. Now she smashed it, but Nicki was already, and she's been on many more features than she's been on. Like she's had many more people on. Come on, man.
Oh, okay.
That's my opinion. Okay. That's my opinion. I would say that.
Okay. Right.
Even though Cardi B's dope, that's her thing.
Okay. All right. So now, if I said the same thing with female singers, R&B singers, if I said who had the biggest decade, Beyonce, Rihanna, J-Lo, or Ariana Grande?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because they've all had their chances, you know what I mean? And Beyonce, she's just, she's a great entertainer. So is Ariana Grande on the other side for the younger.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Okay, you're saying that. We got movies. There's so many things you can get into.
Okay, look. I got video games.
You got what?
Video games.
Video games?
Yeah,
I don't have no video games. I'm not a video game person.
And you're the person I need to talk to. The reason why I want you to tell me. The reason why, because you're not a video game. Which one did you hear about? All right.
All right, what you got?
Fortnite.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Minecraft.
Mm-hmm.
Grand Theft Auto. NBA 2K series. Or Madden. Which one did you hear about even though that.
Oh, I've heard about all of them. Because my husband is a video game guy. So I've heard all those. And then I have nieces and nephews that do the Minecraft and students that like Fortnite. So I've heard them all. You know what I mean? Grand Theft Auto, that was a little more down the line. But 2K, I mean, you can't, I mean, the Madden too. So, I mean.
And I didn't even put Call of Duty because Call of Duty is large.
Oh, yeah.
These, like,
that shooting game.
Fortnite. I was like, those
yeah, Fortnite is the one that kind of sticks out, probably because it's,
more recent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me see what I got. Let me see. I'm going to give you a couple more. We're going to wrap this podcast up today. Let me see a couple more things. But this is on the royal wedding. Meghan Markle. Come on, man.
Oh, my God. Because I don't really care.
But I'm saying.
I know.
That was significant. You know what I mean? She was a regular chick. You're not supposed to be in the palace.
She's not a regular chick. She was on, what is it, Deal or Not Deal, and on Suits. I really missed that, Joe. I think the whole show ended because of her.
I'm talking about to be in the royal family. She was not the norm. That's what I'm telling you. They weren't used to that. And she had a little bit brown in her, so you know they weren't used to that either.
Okay, what a little bit. She brown.
She brown. Let me see what else I got. A couple more things. Now this is astronomical. You know, we're going in outer space. So within the decade was the first photo of the black hole. They had never had a photo of it. So in 2019, this happened. It made one of the biggest space moments in recent history. Astronomers captured the awe-inspiring sight of a black hole. Never saw it, but they do have a picture of it. The way it was, it happened. Close your mouth. It happened.
Okay. So I'm sitting there like, okay, I thought you was gonna say the other one, because I was like, I didn't have that one. That one was big. I didn't realize it.
Let me see.
The fugitive from around the world.
The fugitive from around the world.
The most sought after fugitive was caught.
Oh, yeah. Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden. Exactly. Took a decade. Took him a decade almost, but they got him. Yeah. Absolutely. That was in 2010.
Yeah. So they caught him with that one. I was like, yeah. Oh, we can talk about the end of a dominant team, the Patriots. They're no longer dominant.
Steelers fans, I don't care about the Patriots. Okay. Let me see. They legalized same-sex marriage in this decade. They really did. It happened.
Is that legal in all states, or is that some states?
Well, June 26th, the U.S. legalized same-sex marriage across all 50 states.
Okay.
And this included also Ireland, Finland, Greenland, Colombia, Malta, Australia, Germany, Austria, Taiwan, and Ecuador all followed them. And this is it's from the CEO site that I was looking at, CEO magazine. So this is where this information comes from. And I'm going to say this, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up, unless you have a couple more things. Diverse emojis. It wasn't until 2015 that you were able to pick what skin color. So when you had the thumbs up, and everybody's used to be kind of like yellow looking, now you can get them in dark brown, black, tan, mocha. Your faces could change, and that didn't happen until 2015. So,
all right. So
we got that going on. So a lot happened. So in the last decade, what is your, if you could pick something of the last decade that kind of sticks with you, or something in the past decade that changed you or inspired you, what would you say it was?
A couple of things. My life really changed during this decade, and one being, I started a couple of business ventures, and it's been up and down. But my highs, I never knew I could get that high. Lows, being a little upset, things didn't go the right way, and still did business. But the other thing that I'm most reminded of, where I said this decade that can't happen, was when I first moved down to North Carolina. I was going to invest in this one company. And my wife said, I think that's a good idea, since you research everything, why don't you do it? And I just didn't have the heart, because it's coming into a new area, a new environment. I was like, I might need that money. But had I not did it, GM stock was trading at 90 cents a share. And it went all the way up to like 40 cents a share. It probably hovered around 35. It might be there now. But just think about going up like that much. You know, it's like you put $15,000, you almost have $1 million.
That's insane.
And that's just like
insane.
You know, and that's just off of one investment and just keep it in.
That's insane.
So it was like, or Bitcoin, not following the trend on Bitcoin, and then
right.
And then having a nice, you know, bankroll and say, I should just put that in Bitcoin. It was too many ways to make 7 figures this decade. So hopefully next decade, there'll be more.
You make it work. I think that's something we should talk about on here. You know, different ways to invest that people don't think about.
True, and it's very true. So what are your big takeaways from the decade?
I mean, there's many, but I think the pandemic, man, it really did. I had a lot of positives, you know what I mean, family and, you know, different ventures that we've tried and all of that. But the pandemic, because it changed so many things, okay. And I had COVID. And so seeing that and seeing how it affects so many people, having loved ones pass away from it in a short amount of time, and people that I know, you know what I mean? It hasn't even been a year yet, but so much damage has happened. You know what I mean? I think that, you know, for me, being on the other side of that, where, you know, seeing so many people that died, it just kind of woke me up for the things, like you said, that I didn't invest in, and dreams that I kind of put on hold, and things that I started and didn't finish. It kind of made me wake up like, look, tomorrow you might not be here. Mm-hmm. And if this is your purpose and your passion, you need to do it now. There's no time to wait. Like, what are you wasting time for? Saying you're going to do all these things, or letting fear overtake, you know what I'm saying? The things that you want to do, and, you know, all of that, you know, health wise, you know, being healthy, making healthy choices. So yeah, it was the pandemic, but it made me think about everything that I need to do, that I didn't do, and what to do better. You know, it's sad that it took something like that, you know what I mean, to get you to that point. But, you know, it really, really did. And it just made you appreciate the people who love you, support you. You know, people, like you said, when people really for you, they come out, we know, in times of crisis like that. When people don't show up, only when you're on the other side, be like, really? We kicking it? We really cool? Okay. You need to call me, and I was sick. You know what I mean? So absolutely. That would be my take from it. But hopefully within this next decade coming up, you know, KROSS BARZ will be on the rise. We'll be the #1 podcast. People don't know about it. You got Big O band. Buccini will be back in the house. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm talking about. Next thing. Okay. You got anything right. To add to that last words before we sign off?
Nah, I'm gonna just go ahead and close it out. Hold up, do you want to close it out?
Oh, good.
Oh, okay, because I was like, you know.
No, you got it. You got it.
All right. So I was just looking at the camera, look at my lips. Like, nah.
I've been looking at the lamp.
You know, what I like to do is thank everyone who's been tuning in, and actually, you know, our tags are going to be right below. Make sure you check us out: Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and you guys check out KROSS BARZ, because remember, we're the podcast where we have interesting topics, but we're giving you like a little alternate point of view. So until next podcast, is Big O.
Just call me Jay.
Just call me Jay.
Just call me Jay.
Just call me Jay. And we are out of here.
We are out. Peace.